There's a number of companies making lift kits for the Jeep Patriot. I know, I tried to buy one, but at least one of those companies takes forever to ship, doesn't respond to emails, and I gave up and asked for my money back. If you get too crazy with the height of the lift you utilize, you can run into problems with CV axles, alignment issues, and so forth. So that got me thinking, I wonder if you could utilize the commonly available coil spring spacers that are on the market. Short answer is no, at least not this type. There's too much of a difference in the gap between the springs on the front struts and the rear struts on the Patriot. But I came across a company called DuraShock, which does have various heights available. And if you look at their chart, the measurements appear to line up with the Patriot, at least for the A plus size for the front and the B plus size for the rear. Will they work? Let's find out. Now this is where YouTubers typically ask you to subscribe to their channel and drop a like. I'm not quite doing that because this is actually more of a music channel. I'm a musician and I do doom metal on my own original stuff. So you might want to check that out if you're into it. But I don't normally put up videos about working on cars. So if that's what you're hoping for from this channel, you may want to just watch this and move on. Here you can see the rear and the front. And the first thing we're going to do is jack up both one at a time and see what the fitment looks like at a basic level before we commit. Tire jacked up. We didn't even need to remove it. We can test fit this in here. And I already gave it a little bit of a shot and it's going to go in. You need to massage it. You need to convince it to. But it's going to slide in there. Okay, now we're going to test fit the back, and these might be a little trickier. Might have to remove the wheel to get easy access to it, but at this point we're just testing to see are these things even going to fit in these spaces. Back ones would be more difficult, and as you can see, for sure, not a lot of space to work with here. Maybe not even a full fingernail, but right there is the lip. And the spring keeps you from being able to just shove it right in. So I think this can be done, but I think we do need to take the wheel off. Okay, not what I would call easy by any stretch, but here's what I did. First I seated the bottom groove on the lower coil, and then on the top one I started tucking in with this pry bar. Now what I'm going to do is work it back a little bit until it finally grabs, and then twist it in the rest of the way. Still too tight to seat, so what I'm doing now is a little bit of snipping. Just back a ways, make it like a little hill so it wants to go. And I WD-40'd on the inside of the top channel. So here's where I ended up with this. I had to snip out a stepped lip on this thing to get it to go. I'm at the end now, but even with this, I really had to wrestle with it. Oh, by the way, I pre-drilled the holes because gonna want to tie strap this, especially with part of that inner lip gone now. Make sure they don't come out. I did it in 4 points to be extra certain. But here's where I'm at, home stretch on the rear one anyway. Okay, so to get this last little bit right here, what I'm going to do is take these vice grips, pull outward and twist inward like that to try to tuck it under. That way I don't want the entire thing to rely on tie straps to keep it from popping out this direction. Okay, so that finally worked. And what I've done here is I just pre-started the cable ties. Obviously I tossed the ones that they include with the package in favor of these extreme heavy duty cable ties. Okay, so here's where we're at. Now I made those holes big enough that I think if I really wanted to, I could spin this around into there so it can't be seen, but I honestly don't think you're going to see it anyway. These things are set in behind the wheel to where it's probably not even going to be seen. Now, what would I do differently? I think I'd drill these holes a little lower, maybe with this ridge, because as these deteriorate over time, if they're going to rip or tear anywhere, it's going to be here where you put the tie straps. Also, this lip that I left up here, I think I'm going to try on the other side doing the same on the front. That way I have a lip here, beginning and end, and then remount the center ridge so that it still wants to install at least. Here's what we're going to do for the front. I'm just going to jack this up and try to install it straight in. Look, you can see the size of these coils are a much wider gap. Okay, so I did end up having to trim the top ridge of the front one all the way around, basically this much. Probably could have stand to taking a little more, but again, I'm worried about them squeezing out. Now, where there could be an issue, it's a little difficult to see back here, but that's pretty tight. I don't know if it's going to rub. Now, keep in mind, right now, this is in the air, so it may sit differently once I lower it. I'll see, but it's the same story on this side too. Right here, there's very little, if any, space, so that could rub against the body, in which case, not sure what we would do here. Maybe trim a little off each side. Not sure how that would affect the stance, it not being a complete 360-degree piece then, but we'll see. Front ended up actually being harder than the back. The holes that you drill for your tie straps, for one thing, you're probably lucky to get 2 in there. It's tight once they're in. I drilled 4 holes, but I don't think it's going to happen. The other thing this does is it allows you to take an extension or something and use it to help gain leverage to spin the thing in as it starts seating. And by gain leverage, I mean smacking it with a rubber mallet. Give it a little tappy all the way around, keep it moving. Doesn't move easily though. You're going to need a stubby screwdriver, because even though I cut the ridge in the back to help get it in there, every once in a while it'll want to buckle under itself, fold under itself as you're installing it, and you need to kind of push down into the slot and pry up to tap it over so that it wants to grab around the spring. Okay, so I lowered it now, and what that did for my clearances was it freed up a lot right here on the left side as you're facing, but right here there's pretty sure there's going to be a rub. Yeah, see, I can't even fit the screwdriver back there, so I think, well, it's awfully close. So I didn't put the tie straps in because I had a feeling this could be an issue. I think what I may do here is trim an inch off or so. Do this again. I made this red mark while it was installed so I can cut it off before the rub point, and we'll see what happens then. I think it was the right call to get rid of a bit of this, and it's going in a lot easier too. Now again, the holes that you drill will help you spin this thing, and I'm noticing this time that I'm able to turn it basically by hand with the extension through that hole. Also, since I have more confidence in this now, I went ahead and preloaded, so to speak, one of the tie straps. That way I'd really like to at least get 3 on this, and I think that'll help me get there. Now, I'm not cinching it down, I'm just getting it ready to cinch down, because this has got to spin a little more. I want to keep pressure on it back here as it turns, because you want the bottom to at least seat cleanly as you're spinning it. Now the top, there's no getting around it. That's the part you clipped, but you're probably going to have to get that edge to seat by taking the screwdriver back here that I mentioned earlier and guiding it along. But if you get this bottom off track and go too far, then you got real problems. It's a real workout at that point. Okay, so here's how we ended up. Honestly, I'm shocked at how much easier it was to install the second time once I made that clip to it. I think the stock size on these were just too big a diameter even though when you use the measurements on their help page, this is what it said should have been in there. But looks like my rub pinch points are gone now. And yeah, so here's kind of a unique view. Since I have one side installed and not the other, you can kind of tell that it's sitting higher. Does it make a difference in the ride height? Yeah. I'm not sure if this is translating to video, but, and you gotta keep in mind that I need to keep the camera level too, but using that line in the driveway as a level point, you can see that our left side, the passenger side, is definitely sitting higher. So now let's see what this did to the camber measurements. Remember, on the rear, for this tool to work, you need to press the backing plate back so it doesn't affect it. So the rear passenger side, we're about a half a degree positive. Driver's side rear, looks like we're about 1 degree positive on the camber. Driver's side front, not even 1 degree positive. Front, same thing, like a half a degree positive. Side maybe is a little stiffer, but it's negligible. Can barely notice at all. I think what I'm going to do is, there's a rather large parking lot nearby. I'm going to corner it real hard, left and right, get some body roll testing going, and see if also too if that motion wants to force out the springs from the channels. We went on a beer run for the test drive. Latch it in. Gonna do some hard turns to test things out. Vorsteiner Dunkel. Good stuff. Bass player for my last band. Turned me onto it. Like it. Okay, we'll do some hard cornering, see what happens. Pretty empty parking lot here. So, here goes. Not sure how well that translated to video, but trust me, it's hard to do with the phone in one hand and stick shift and clutching, and yeah. Let's check them out. Well, I'm happy to report nothing moved out of place. Everything stayed put. Don't know if that'll be the case under off-roading conditions, and unfortunately I cannot find out until the spring. The reason being, as you may have noticed, that my underbody was awfully shiny. That's because I just had the vehicle fluid filmed in order to protect it from road salt over the winter. I don't want to get that full of dirt and mud and then end up hosing it all off when I just had it done. So what about height measurements? Well, here we go. This is the front. At the fender, down the center. This is the rear. Now where it really seems noticeable is next to my wife's stock height 2-wheel drive. Nine sixteenths of an inch isn't that much of a gain in lift. I mean, even a stock Patriot next to a stock XJ is still pretty tall. Where I think this will shine, however, is maintaining a height that you like once you add on a bunch of things like skid plates and bumpers, etc. In fact, I found another company manufacturing this type of spacer specifically for plow trucks for that purpose. I don't think it'll do a whole lot to add ground clearance for off-roading, but it does improve the aggressiveness and appearance, and at least in my case, it doesn't look like I even need to mess with any alignment changes or worry about CV axles, etc.